And here's one of the greatest lies of the pro-choice movement, is that there are no other options for a woman. That is the greatest lie of the pro-choice movement. That somehow the pro-lifers, all they do is virtual signal online, but they don't really care about the baby and they don't really care about the mother. They're just saying, no more abortions, no more abortions. But wait, are they giving more options? No, they're not. There's no other option. That couldn't be farther from the truth. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Andrew Roman Show. Man, I'm pumped that you've tuned in. This last weekend, it was awesome. Thousands of young adults and Christians of all really generations got together at the Cotton Ball for Together 2022. It was a 50-year anniversary of Expo 72, which was with the Billy Graham movement, and that's when the Jesus People movement was born. It was an amazing experience. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it, and we're also going to talk about Roe v. Wade being overturned, what that means, why we should be excited, how do we respond to people's concerns, and a lot of the misinformation out there, especially as Christians. What should be our stance? How vocal should we be about it? Should we just kind of be like, okay, thank you, Jesus, and that's it, and move on? What are we going to talk about? So that's everything that we're going to talk about in this episode. You don't want to miss a moment of it. Like I mentioned, over the weekend, we had an amazing event. I'm actually wearing the t-shirt. You know, you got to wear the merch. You got to represent. Just saying. It was awesome. Not only was it a time of worship and we had some great artists. I mean, my man Lecrae was there. KB was there. Christine Kane also spoke. I mean, gosh, Louis Engel spoke, so that's kind of an older generation, but still with so much fire. And it was just literally like the setup. Chris Tomlin, Jeremy Camp. Which, fun story, I got to meet Jeremy Camp one time when I worked at a hotel. And I worked in front desk and I was helping the valet, moving cars around, and he stayed in our hotel. And I remember just seeing him briefly, and he passed me his keys, and then I looked at him probably for more than a second. I hope it wasn't weird. And I was like, oh my gosh, I recognize this guy. Where is he from? And it's his smile, bro. His smile and his eyes, bro. He's got like these blue eyes, I'm pretty sure. And then I was like, you know what? I think that's Jeremy Camp. So I ran over to the computer, looked up his name in our records, and he was under J Camp, and it was 100% Jeremy Camp. It was just really cool. Anyways, the whole conference was awesome because it wasn't just a time of worship and a good experience. It was really hot. But it was also a time of training, because as Christians, can I tell you something? And this is something we go over and over and over again in my podcast, is that our faith is not private. Our faith is, in fact, should be public. That's why there's baptisms. One of the reasons that there's baptisms is to make your faith public, to let people know that Jesus is the Lord of your life. There's no such thing as a secret Christian agent, right? Like there's no such thing as keeping your faith private. And that's what this event was about, really equipping you with the tools of sharing your faith. Because granted, sharing your faith is not always the most comfortable thing, but it also is not very hard when you have the right tools. Does that mean it's always the easiest conversation? No, but when you have the right tools, you can live a life that's passionate, with a faith that's relevant and reasonable. So it was just really an amazing event. Download the app Together 2022. You can actually watch the event. There's so many resources there. So it was awesome. And now I want to really move on to the heart of this episode. The heart of this episode was with a historic moment in our nation's history. Something that, if I'm honest with you, I didn't think I would see in my lifetime. I mean, I kept seeing all the posts and follow folks that they're like we're gonna be the post-Wade Roe v. Wade generation, when abortion is now overruled, that abortion is federally legal throughout the country, and that's overruled, and the decision is back to the states. And all this stuff, I was like, man, that's really cool. I'm with you, but I don't know if it's gonna happen. And then it happened. It is amazing. Actually, it was Louis Engel himself that was in the Cotton Ball Stadium on Saturday speaking to the crowd. I was in that crowd. He said something powerful, something that truly impacted me. He said this. He said that 19 years ago, he was at that very stadium, at that very stage, holding a gathering, and they prayed for the end of abortion. They prayed for the overruling of Roe versus Wade. And then he said 19 years later, at the very same stage, at the very same stadium, Roe v. Wade is no more. How amazing is that? I mean, I got chills just saying that. It's awesome. But here we go. So social media frenzy started, didn't it? You probably have a lot of friends. Everyone was sharing posts either of saying it's about time and we pro-life and all this. And then there were some people who were kind of like, well, I'm pro-life, but hey, make sure that, we take care of the woman. And then there was more on the radical side saying, oh, this is a radical court. They're pushing these radical ideas. They're infringing on women's bodies. They're infringing on women's rights. This has nothing to do with being pro-life, because if you were pro-life, then you would be completely pro-living and give free healthcare and free childcare and free universal universities to the kids. But since you're not doing that, it's about power and it's about control. Have you heard all that? Most likely you have, because we're all on Instagram. I have close friends and friends of mine that are just sharing posts from like every type of perspective on this. And it's usually in these moments when I think a lot of us don't really know what to do. We're kind of like, wait a minute, so what is true? Because there is so much misinformation out there. I never like to use the word misinformation very much. Yeah, it's kind of a contradiction right there. I don't like to use the word misinformation very often, because it's often used to label something that is true that goes against the current thoughts. So that happened a lot with like COVID stuff and all that. But truly what is happening right now, there's so much misinformation when it comes to this abortion topic, of people sharing things that are actually not accurate whatsoever with the any pro-life legislation that's going on, what the overturning of Roe versus Wade means, what the Supreme Court actually did. So I want to just share with you some clarity in the situation, because I think you're like me. I hope if we're similar, that we both love God and we love Jesus and we're passionate Christians. I want to know the truth. I want to know the truth. I want to be sensitive to people. I want to have grace, but I also want to have truth. I don't want to water things down. I don't want to just echo someone else's voice. I want to have my own opinion about things, and that's important. So let's get some things kind of straight, and we're going to talk a lot about this. It's all going to be under this topic. We might go back and forth on some different ideas, but I hope that this is helpful to you. If this is the first time you've ever heard it, I'm going to point you to different directions and different resources that I have found helpful, because I am not the prominent and leading voice regarding this topic whatsoever. There are so many people that are already doing this that I will just fall gladly behind and listen to them, and because I trust their info and they do their due diligence and they have the right motivation as well. So what exactly happened? What did the Supreme Justice actually overrule? Did they overrule? Did they overturn? Did they decide something for the entire country? What happened? Well, 50 years ago, let's just say about 50 years ago, actually, I think it's 1971 or 72, when Roe versus Wade was actually passed. What was that? So Roe versus Wade was the argument that the Constitution granted a woman a right to an abortion. So if a state declined it, a state is declining the constitutional right of a woman for her bodily autonomy to make the best decision for herself with her healthcare provider. You've probably heard those ideas before, right? That no one can tell a woman what to do, and it's a private decision between her own health and her healthcare provider or her doctor. And the argument was based that, hey, it's just your constitutional right to an abortion. Again, if you want to know a little bit more the specifics of that argument, follow Live Action. They're a really good organization that really talks about the origin of Roe versus Wade and what it was actually based on. But that was the idea, that it was your constitutional right to have an abortion. So then people went like, well, I don't want to deny that. And then when states try to limit it, that was also fought very, very hard. So here's the problem is, when it comes to these things, the Supreme Court decided for the entire country that no state can ban abortion. That was the law. You can't ban it. You might be able to restrict it. But even, for example, the heartbeat bill, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the heartbeat bill that passed in Texas, that was basically that you can't have an abortion once a heartbeat is detected. I think that technically was against the Supreme Court decision of Roe versus Wade. So I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So Roe versus Wade, the Supreme Court decided for the entire country that it cannot ban abortions. It made a decision for everyone in every state that you could not ban an abortion. So what exactly happened last week? Did they make a decision for everybody about something? No, in fact, they reversed Roe versus Wade. In their reasoning, because they were Christians and they were oppressive. And no. Their reasoning is Roe versus Wade is not constitutional. No one has a constitutional right to an abortion. There is no such thing as a constitutional right for an abortion. I'm going to say that again. There is no such thing for a constitutional right for abortion. You can study it yourself. So all that the Supreme Court justices did is they reversed an unconstitutional decision. That's it. They didn't make a decision for everybody. In fact, the decision of whether to ban abortion or not is now left to the states. Many of you might not know that. Some people freaked out and said, oh my gosh, abortion is illegal everywhere and they're infringing on our own decisions. No. Wait, hold up. Is now the decision's actually left to the state. So now the states can decide whether they're going to ban abortion limited or have it free and clear for everybody, every woman to access as far into the pregnancy as they want. As some, like I believe it might be Virginia, has really late term abortions. But Texas, for example, Texas is in the process, and I have to look at more of the specifics, but I would think Texas is one that's probably going to ban it. But then here we go. Here are the responses to that, right? The responses to that usually goes, wait a second. You're going to ban abortion? But what about those back alley abortions that are going to happen? What about all the illegal abortions? Wouldn't that put women in danger? Because, look, I might not be for abortion, but if they're going to get an abortion, might as well be safe and legal and everything like that, because there's so many perspectives on this. I really encourage you, go to Live Action, look up their response videos regarding back alley abortions. You're going to see the actual facts. So one of the doctors that was one of the prominent voices for the pro-choice movement during the 70s, he was actually an abortionist himself, a surgeon who did the abortion procedure. He said they gave figures, for example, that there were about 5,000 to 10,000 back alley abortions that were going on before Roe versus Wade was passed. So there was like all these women dying of illegal abortions that if we just made them legal, they would be saved. He himself admitted that those figures were a lie. In fact, the year that Roe versus Wade was passed, more women died by legal abortions than by illegal abortions. Kind of crazy, right? Again, watch Live Action's video so you can know the facts of the case. Because people here start freaking out and we start talking about the woman's bodily autonomy and the woman's right and that the woman won't have anywhere to go if she doesn't. Again, I want to say this very clear. This is a topic that, of course, we must have compassion. I cannot imagine being in a woman's situation with especially, and here I'm talking about, I'm gonna step on some toes here, but I'm talking about a woman who had an unplanned pregnancy, and especially if that was from an abuse or rape or incest or something like that. That is horrible. No woman should go through that. But as is very often said, and it's very true, is that two wrongs don't make a right. You don't murder the child for the sins of the father. That's not what you do. There are other options. And here's one of the greatest lies of the pro-choice movement, is that there are no other options for a woman. That is the greatest lie of the pro-choice movement. That somehow the pro-lifers, all they do is virtual signal online, but they don't really care about the baby and they don't really care about the mother. They're just saying, no more abortions, no more abortions. But wait, are they giving more options? No, they're not. There's no other option. That couldn't be farther from the truth. The pro-life movement is pro-life and it's anti-abortion. So yes, the focus is anti-abortion. You don't blame the association of, for example, of diabetes to not focus on cancer. No, because they're the association of diabetes. They focus on, fighting diabetes. But you don't blame them for not focusing on solving cancer. And if you can't solve cancer, how dare you solve diabetes? That's not how it works. Yes, we can be anti-abortion and not solve the world's hunger epidemic. We can do that. Because what we're talking about here is not about controlling a woman's body. We're talking about saving the life of the unborn child. So when it comes to someone not having any options whatsoever, and it's just something that must happen, I'm going to give you an interesting statistic that a lot of people don't know. In Texas, there are 9 pregnancy centers, and those are life centers where mothers can get their pregnancy exam or I don't even know, dude, I'm not a woman, but there's sonograms, pregnancy tests, and get resources and tools, one, to help them become mothers, but also if they would like to give them up for adoption. There are 9 pregnancy centers for every abortion clinic here in Texas. Did you hear that? 9 pregnancy centers for every abortion clinic. So yes, there are options. Yes, there are people for the last 50 years that have been fighting this and giving mothers what they need. So this is a complete lie from the pro-choice movement. I would say from the devil himself, that a woman's only choice if she doesn't want the baby or if she feels that she's not ready is to abort the baby because the other side doesn't care about her. The pro-life movement, and if you're a Christian, you don't really care about, you're not pro-living, as they say. You're just pro-birth, but not pro-living. That is the farthest thing from the truth. In fact, Christians ourselves, we're more... No one adopts like Christians. No one fosters like Christians. No one donates to charities like Christians. No one funds pregnancy centers like Christians, because that's the other thing. So the first thing is understanding that there are options. There are resources that I believe even more now we should continue to do the work. I mean, me personally, I'm going to, and I say this and you can hold me accountable, but I'm going to look at the pregnancy centers that are around and how I can help, at least financially, in starting to give more to these associations, because it is more than ever that now we have to continue the work. So that's number one, that there are not no other options. There are, in fact, options. So I just want to tell you, if you yourself find yourself in that position where you're pregnant and you're not ready to be a mom, or you don't feel that you're ready, there's help for you. There's a community of support already for you. If you are a friend of someone who's carrying a child who doesn't want him, don't take them to the abortion clinic. That's not helpful. That is not being supportive. That's murdering a child. And that might sound strong, but that's the very fact of the matter. Take him to one of these pregnancy centers. Literally look it up. Look it up. I'm going to try to find there's a certain website that you can put your zip code in that tells you all the pregnancy centers in your area. Get informed. Now more than ever, we have to be informed about the resources and the truth behind this topic. Here's the thing. Before, and look, I'm a big proponent of, when it comes to social media, you don't have to speak about everything. You don't have to. You don't have to share every single post. You don't have to share always your opinion. I'm someone who I barely share my opinion on things, except when I believe them to be very important. 2 years ago, with everything about racism and BLM and all that, the idea was that if you didn't share anything, you were automatically a racist. You were automatically against Black people. And I was against that idea, that if you didn't share something, you must be against. That silence is violence. And if you spoke against the current theme, then speech is violence, apparently. So I'm against that. I'm not forcing anybody to make an opinion. But I am saying that every Christian, especially Christians, but every person needs to know the truth. Even if you don't speak the truth always on social media, but in your one-on-one conversations with people, this is not something where we have to be laid back. Because here's the second lie. And I've seen this even from Christians, that this is a nuanced topic, right? That's people's hesitation is, man, can we, it's just a really, requires a lot of nuance and a lot of context, and it's just a difficult topic. Let's get the facts straight. This is not a nuanced topic. This is about saving unborn children from being murdered. I don't know if you've ever watched the documentary, but there's a documentary by the Daily Wire called Choosing Death, I think, and it's called The Legacy of Roe. Heartbreaking to know the reality of abortion, because culture has done such a great job to paint abortion as a choice, and that's it. Oh, it's just a choice. It's like eating cereal. You chose to eat cereal. You chose to get an abortion. No big deal. But not only is it harmful for the woman, but it's devastating for the child because you kill the child. So this is not about a nuanced topic that you have your opinion and I have my opinion. I saw a post that I want to just read a little bit circulating online, and it was about, it's in Spanish, but the whole idea is, hey, you don't have to like abortion. In fact, you don't have to support abortion, but don't take away the right of abortion to someone else who might need it. Because at the end of the day, it's your opinion. Your opinion is not the right to take away the bodily autonomy of a woman. Can I tell you something? We don't take this approach with any other moral subject. Back in the 1800s and 1862 and 1864, the argument wasn't, hey, you know what? If you don't want a slave, you don't have to have a slave. If you don't want to steal, you don't have to steal. If you don't want to murder people, you don't have to murder people. But don't stop me. But don't stop me from owning a slave. Don't stop me from being a thief. Don't stop me from murdering people. That's nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. Of course, there has to be laws stopping people from murdering each other and from owning slaves. I dare people to say that when it comes to the abortion topic, to say, oh, it's just your opinion, or your opinion doesn't override. Yeah, go back in 1864 and tell that to a slave owner. Well, it's my opinion. No, you know the truth. You know when something's wrong, but we've been lied to. Again, not only is it our faith that we know that every person born and every person unborn is made in the image of God. We know that, but also science reveals that. I have a whole episode called The Truth About Abortion. Please watch it. We go very much in detail of the scientific evidence for life at conception and all the progress. Please watch that. But guys, it's not a nuanced subject. It's not about your opinion or my opinion. We're not aborting the woman. We're aborting the child inside the woman. That is not her body. A baby that is born prematurely, if the parents want the baby, the doctors have to fight for the life of that child and give them everything that they need. But if a woman all of a sudden of the same months as that baby doesn't want the baby, abort it to the trash can? Have we really valued babies just based on if they're wanted or not wanted? Because that's what this comes down to. So there are other options for women. This is not, in fact, a nuance topic. Oh, if it's your opinion, but don't take away the right. The right to what? Abort a child? And abortion is a euphemism, meaning it's a more palpable term for something that's horrendous and horrid. Aborting a child is murdering a child. So when we say, well, it's just aborting a child. No, it's murdering a child. It's murdering a life. And I want to say this that might step on some toes. When it comes to horrible cases of rape or incest, it's terrible. And still, those women should be supported in their journey. They should be taken to a pregnancy center. There should be a life support. Church should be there. And many churches are doing that. And that's a tiny percentage of the reason that many people get abortions. It's based out of convenience. Oh, don't force a woman to carry the child. Honey, nobody forced you to have sex. What happens when we have sex? The natural result of having sex is getting pregnant. So it's like, what do you expect? No one forced you to have sex, but that's a problem. People just want casual sex and they don't want consequences. Do you know who abortion benefits the most? Is the lazy man. The man who just wants to sleep with anyone but doesn't want to have any responsibility to be a father. So yeah, abortion really benefits him. Just abort the child and I can be sleeping with anybody I want without responsibility. That's what we're experiencing today. No one's forcing the woman to carry the child. You sleep around, at some point you is going to get pregnant. It's just the way that your body works. Again, that's not to be harsh with someone. That's not to say that I don't have compassion for unplanned pregnancies and pregnancies that put mothers in difficult situations, but that's the resilience of motherhood. The resilience of a mother is the single moms that are raising 3 kids while being pregnant with the 4th one and getting their degree. That's the resilience of a mother, for them to have a community. So today I want to challenge you. We have to continue the work. We don't have to start the work. We have to continue it. Because that's the other thing that really annoyed me from some Christians that kind of were posting stuff and saying, well, they barely celebrated the overturning of Roe versus Wade. I think everyone was so afraid of being politically incorrect and so much to try to lean towards the nuance of the subject that no one wanted to actually celebrate it. And instead, everyone just focused on, well, it's just nuance, and now we gotta be true to our name, that we gotta be, pro-life and not just pro-birth. That's what we've been doing, homie. Like, that's what the movement has always been about. And me personally, in the last couple of months, I've gotten more and more certain and more passionate about this movement. I've always been pro-life. I've never been pro-abortion. I've never been pro-choice. I've always understood it as murdering a child. But I've always thought like, man, there are people who that's just their topic, right? That's just everybody's got the topic that they advocate of. But when it comes to a life of the unborn, homie, that is a Christian. That is being human at the very least. But especially if you're a Christian, that's not like, well, that's just not my subject to advocate for. I'm not saying you have to post every single day, but when it comes to your personal beliefs and the way that you speak to people, it should make a difference. That you should have the truth, because the truth will set you free. So I know this was a hot topic. I know I maybe stepped on some toes, but if you want to learn the truth, not just be misinformed by 100 and blue-checked celebrities that just want to totally misinform you in companies that are actually providing for their employees to travel and get their abortions if their state where they live has made it illegal. I mean, this is all nonsense. It is evil. And as Christians, we have to stand against it, and we have to stand for life. And yes, it starts with overturning Roe versus Wade. So thank God that has been overturned. Again, that doesn't mean it's illegal all across the country. That's up to the states. And we should pray that every politician chooses life, because there are other options for women. There are other options, and there is a community of support for women who are going through this. And if you're a woman who's going through this, or you have a friend who's going through this and you're like, no, there's not a support, you've been lied to. You've been blinded. It's all there. And if you need more information, again, I share so much already on the episode called The Truth About Abortion. So please check that out. And don't forget to like this episode, share it to somebody who disagrees with the pro-life movement. If you don't like those hard conversations, let me do the talking. Share it. Share the information of Live Action. Follow them. I followed them on Instagram. You have to do this, because this is not about being a certain just vocal advocate for your niche. No. This is about being a child of God and a Christian who stands for life. There's no nuance about this. There's just truth. We'll see you in the next episode of The Andrew Ramon Show.